I figured we'd spend a little bit of time today. I got about 15 minutes before my next meeting. So one of the things that I do obviously every month is I write a couple of team meetings, right? And team meetings, I get that question asked all the time, Jim, how do you write these team meetings? You know, how do you get the room packed? How do you consistently have agents showing up? Well, the fact of the matter is you need to have two things. Number one, you have to have consistency, meaning consistency in your meeting flow. So our meetings are every Wednesday. They start at a certain time. They end in within an hour and a half, and it's very, very consistent. So we always try to lay our schedules out basically by this time, by the end of November-ish, what you're going to have is you're going to have the full entire calendar schedule for 2026. So what we do then is we plan it out. So it's set out in front, and these agents know it. Our meetings are mandatory, so we need our agents there. That's when we're giving them a ton of information, and it's very important. Second part about it is you got to bring content. You got to bring things that they want to hear, right? If you're just walking in and you're having a team meeting and you're not delivering the valuable information, the room's going to be empty. I hear a ton of teams that are saying, hey, we have a team meeting once a week or we have it twice a week. I would say that's great, but what kind of energy and engagement and feedback? Because you as a team leader, I'll tell you for me, I write my team meetings basically all month and gather and curate all that content basically in a note in my phone. And then I take it, lay it all out, and that's how I put and plan my team meeting. So the ones that are having maybe one a week, that's maybe a little bit too much. Why don't you look at condensing it, jamming it into an hour and a half, 2 hours? We like to bookend it with either an educational event. We're always doing food. Free food drives the people. So when I look at a team meeting, really a couple things, like I said, there's a couple of main things that we want to hit. Obviously, we do an opening. And typically in an opening, it's going to be one of two things. It's really going to be me as the CEO kind of just giving a general informational session. There's going to be either a vision portion of this where I'm really talking about the company. You know, I'm talking about actually the business, what I see coming, things along those lines. I'm just forecasting, having them look out and cast a vision a little bit. So there's either a vision or there's a motivation. And why do I pick one of the two? Well, the first thing is at the end of the day, in the beginning of the meeting, I'm trying to arc them to their why. I'm trying to get them excited about what they're about to learn, so they're staying in tune about the information. One of the things that I'll see is people come to these meetings and it's like, okay, marketing. And then marketing stands up and they're like, ba, 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 and then they sit down. That's not going to do anything. People aren't going to get there. They're not going to retain that information. We all know realtors, agents, they get a ton of emails. So if you're going to send them one, it's got to be really, really good. So like, this is the information you want to deliver to these guys and put in front of them. So I'm either typically in an opening going to do a vision or a motivation. Then I always do a training. Why? Because I always am bringing and doing content and trying to deliver a consistent value to these agents and educate them. I want them to know that education is going to be the backbone and the foundation of their career. The more they learn, the more they grow, the more they earn. It's plain and simple. So every single time I want them to think and continue to learn, right? So I'm going to put a training, and we're very focused about this. What's happening in the market? What is the big thing that everybody's talking about out there? What do they need more guidance around? They look to me as the CEO and the leader to actually deliver that vision. So late last week, I was actually sitting in Austin in KWRI. I was with Gary Keller, Jason Abrams, Jay Papazon, 20 of the top agents in all of Keller Williams. You had to be doing a minimum of $4 million in GCI up to this point to be in that room. Big thinkers, big believers. I had a ton of takeaways there. That's where I'm going to bring them that knowledge, right? This is a situation and a setting that me as a CEO only get really limited access to. This is an opportunity for them to get the best of the best, the direct info from one of the most influential people in real estate, one of the most active head of industries you see in the business, working with agents, helping them solve problems every single day, sitting in the room and being able to come and actually take those information and notes and deliver that to them is important and impactful. So that's what's going to go into our training tomorrow, right? So we're going to write in here, GKMM. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to construct a message. So this would be about basically, let's call this about 10 minutes. This is going to be about, call it 15 to 20 minutes, right? So between these two, as a CEO, I'm spending basically anywhere about 30 some minutes in front of my agents, right? So if I have a full hour and a half meeting, now that's kind of cut down. This hour is filled in through the other parts and the other leaders in the organization, right? So now we're going to be getting into departments. Sometimes we do agent interviews. Sometimes we do a bunch of things. Now tomorrow's a little special day. Obviously, getting a little chilly outside. We got Thanksgiving coming up, so it's the Turkey Day holiday here. So more people are going to be thinking about turkey than thinking about anything else. So I'm not going to overwhelm them and overload them. So our meeting's probably going to sit right on that hour and a half mark. But as we're getting towards the end, I want to bring them the fun stuff. I want to get the energy going. I want to get the culture going, because right when it ends, we're going to go into our Thanksgiving potluck, right? And that's where our energy and our culture is just really, really going to be tied together here. So at this point, we'll get into what I call like departmentals, right? So we'll go through our departments. Ops will speak, marketing will speak, and then ultimately too, sales will speak. So I wanted to kind of focus here on sales. So when we talk sales, we're going to give them a number of different things. So we train our agents here in pods, meaning we train to our growth pods, we train to our model pods, and we train to our individuals or indies or our partner pods, right? All are at different levels. Our partner agents, they're doing 15, 20, $30 million in production a year. They need high-end, real top level information. Right now, what I'd be working with them on is business planning, setting up their expenses for next year, making sure they're doing everything they need to do for a tax setting ahead of 12/31 coming up to make sure that they can close their books in a proper way. And then also thinking about, where we need to make changes, what things we need to put in there, et cetera. Model, what those agents are really working on, those are $5 million real like baseline producers that are really looking to grow at this point. So for them, what we're doing is we're looking back at their business and saying, okay, what have you done well? What haven't you done well? Where can you improve? And we're leaning into those things so that they go into next year feeling and ready with what they have and what they need. And then our growth pod agents, those agents are still like brand new baby horse, right? They're still figuring out how to walk. So we're just trying to help them walk. And a lot of times too, heading into a new year, they're hearing all these agents business planning and thinking all these big dreams and visions. For them, we're just trying to keep it simple, right? KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Very, very straightforward. We want just consistent reps. We want to see consistent action from them, showing up and putting in the work, building the CRM, building the book of business. So what we'll do here is we will focus our sales side by both of some of our directors will come in and they'll talk. We'll talk about new construction. We'll talk about investment sales, multifamily, residential, what we're seeing in mortgage rates. Then we'll give seller tips, and then what that really causes is more of a mastermind. So our agents then at that point will start kind of masterminding between, and people will be sometimes in a funny way yelling at people and things like that, disagreeing, but that's healthy. That's what you want. That's the culture. That's the environment. They're learning. That's what's going to get them back in that seat learning once again. So from the sales side too. And then at the end of the day, what we'll come up to is we'll do a simple wrap up. We'll just conclude it. We'll close it out. We'll just shut it down and really move into the next thing. But like I said, we always bookend our events. So we'll have some donuts, some stuff before team meeting, and then we'll have that follow-up culture event that really bonds it. So those will be your two bookends. I think that's really, really important. Some other little tips and tricks, right? Some things that we like to do and we've done before. One of the things we do is we always have an acknowledgement box. That box is out every month, and anytime you have a win or you want to give somebody a shout out, you just go in there and you drop in a note. So we have Taniki or Marissa, our COO, come up and they'll just kind of read the box, and sometimes there's funny jokes, things like that. We always open up with that. It really just loosens up the room before I, whether I'm getting in there and driving home a really motivational point, or I'm really getting into them, on something they need to focus on because I see something coming in the future and there's some things that they need to do now to prepare for that. Those my setting and my conversation can be different at all times. So I think the acknowledgement box really helps flavor that up too. And then also too, like every quarter, at least once a quarter, my team meeting's basically a big surprise. They may be coming in here to think that they're having a meeting. And, one year we did Mario Kart where we tied all balloons on our agents' feet and we made them feet and made them run around and stomp all the balloons. It sounded like a stampede in here. But for them, like they weren't expecting that. That's what made them come up the next month and come back the next month. But that's when they're learning. So that's what helps build culture. I think it's an important part of every business to have that consistent plan. You need to be in front of your agents and giving them all the information. We communicate a lot and we do a lot of functions. So for us, we find that once a month is completely sufficient. If you're doing once a week, that's great. You're doing every 2 weeks, that's great. That's just what works for us. What works for one is not going to work for all. The biggest thing is just making sure you're doing it, building it, and coming in with a plan. Every single month, you need to be thinking about what's next month's topic and what content are you curating to put in front of them in that meeting. So if you have any advice or you need any advice on team meetings, I always love talking about this topic, or any meetings for that point, reach out. I'd be happy to, kind of guide you and lead you on that direction.